Well, hello, and we're in John's Gospel, chapter 19, and we read from verse 38 to 42, reading from the ESV. After these things, Joseph of Arimathea, who was a disciple of Jesus, but secretly, for fear of the Jews, asked Pilate that he might take away the body of Jesus, and Pilate gave him permission. So he came and took away his body. Nicodemus also, who had earlier come to Jesus by night, came bringing a mixture of myrrh and aloes, about 75 pounds in weight. So they took the body of Jesus and found it in linen clothes, with the spices, as in the burial custom of the Jews. Now in the place where he was crucified there was a garden, in the garden a new tomb, in which no one had yet been laid. So because of the Jewish day of preparation, since the tomb was close at hand, they laid Jesus there. So we have now that Jesus is dead, and the events here that Nicodemus and Joseph came to bury Jesus and bring in spices to deal with problems of the heat and the decomposition of the body. They knew Jesus was dead. There's no doubt about it. Arguments that Jesus didn't actually die on the cross are, quite frankly, they're utterly ludicrous. They're just things which are made up. There's no foundation for them whatsoever. Now, Joseph of Arimathea is mentioned in all the Gospels. We know he was a rich man. He owned this grave, which is consistent with him being a rich man. And he was also a member of the Sanhedrin. And he was... says here was a secret disciple of Jesus, and Nicodemus is also a secret disciple of Jesus. They didn't and in Isaiah 53, and if you haven't read Isaiah 53, you should do so. It says there he was. Well, let's just read out exactly what it says. Let's get to the. Let's get it on the ESV. Be consistent. Oh, what did it say? He was given a grave of the rich. I thought I'd made a note of these things. Probably not. Maybe I had. I don't know. Yeah, verse 59 it says, "And they made his grave with the wicked and with the rich man in his death, although he had done no violence and there was no deceit in his mouth. Yet it was the will of the Lord to crush him, and he has put him to grief. When his soul makes an offering for guilt, he will see his offspring, for he shall prolong his days." So, and Nicodemus, who of course we met in chapter 3 with the being born again discussion with Jesus, and they recognise there's something in Jesus, but they're not quite sure what. And elsewhere it says that he was, I think it's at Mark 15. Let's have a quick look at Mark 15. See if that is actually where I want to go. It's verse 43, if my note is correct. It says, "Joseph of Arimathea, a respected member of the council of the Sanhedrin, who was also himself looking for the kingdom of God, took courage and went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus." So he's been cautious, but he was actually taking a risk in going to Pilate, because it might be that he then seemed to be kind of in favour of Jesus, with Pilate could be viewed as being a co-conspirator with Jesus and could end up suffering the same fate as Jesus, which obviously would not be something he would want to do. But neither of them are real. It's a bit like today, you've got Jordan Peterson, Tom Holland, a psychiatrist, one historian, who speak very much in favour of Jesus in some ways. You think you need to make a decision. We can't have pulled Jesus one way or another. Isn't it enough? We need to commit fully to him. And that's true for all of us. We need to fully commit to Jesus. So that's just sort of the key takeaway behind, if you want to put it in those terms, from this talk. Be fully committed to Jesus, because he is much greater than you or I imagine. It doesn't matter how great you think he is greater still. We've also got to then look at verse 44. It says, Pilate was surprised to hear that Jesus should have already died. And some of the centurion, he asked him whether he was already dead. When he learned from the centurion that he was dead, the centurion knew what he was talking about. He had seen many people die. He knew what a dead body looked like. And he granted the corpse to Joseph of Arimathea. Joseph brought a linen shroud and, taking him down, wrapped him in the shroud and laid him in a tomb. This tomb's in a big garden, we told earlier, which must have been quite an expensive tomb, being consistent with Joseph being a rich man. As I think Matthew tells us that he was rich. Yes, Matthew 25. Let's just have a quick look. Not quite the bit I wanted to find there. It says he was Matthew tells us that Joseph was a disciple of Jesus. Mark says he was a respected member of the council. He was also looking for the kingdom of God. Luke says that he was, where he was from, he was a member of the council, a good and righteous man. And John tells us the bit we've just read there, that he was a secret disciple of Jesus. So Jesus is now buried and is well and truly dead. But things are not going to stay that way. So we'll talk about that in the next video.